Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unstoppable Dad Project. Thanks for joining us for another week. You don't have to, you get to, is something that I have really been focusing on over the last few months. It was something that I can't even remember where I seen it. I can't even remember who shared it, but I'm pretty sure it was shared as a meme on social media. I shouldn't say a meme because it wasn't meant to be funny. It was meant to be a little bit inspirational, but you don't have to, you get to. And for me, that has actually been a really powerful driver for me over the last few months. We've had a lot of things go on over the last few months, both professionally, both personally, and environmentally, I think would probably be the right way to describe it. In fact, right now, as I record this, we're in the middle of another 7-day lockdown, and it's the second time where we run our business and where we live that we've been put into lockdown in the last month. And granted, I'm thankful that it has been short. There's other places within the country that have been forced into more lockdowns than what we have and longer lockdowns than what we have. So I am thankful that it hasn't been as bad as what some other people have been left to experience. My heart goes out to those people, especially those of you that have had to run or are trying to run small businesses in what can only be described as probably the worst environment in order to do it. But to really change my perspective on a lot of things, because I've spoken about on this podcast multiple times, my mental struggles around everything and how I can think myself into a very, very deep hole and a very, very dark hole, and a hole that at times I've thought, some very, very deep and dark thoughts about potentially finding a way out, and thinking about things and repositioning things around, you don't have to do it, but you get to do it, has really helped me. And for me, that saying in that sentence, what it means is, it means that I have a choice in everything that I do. I have the power to decide how I approach things. I have the power to decide how I want to attack the day. And the things that I am doing, I get to do it. It's a privilege to be able to do it. And it can be as simple as, and it kind of started on, for looking at this thing and looking at this saying, for me, started on like a micro level. And it started with the kids, right? Because as my kids are starting to get older, they're obviously becoming their own people, which is amazing to be able to sit back and watch and get to observe and be a part of and influence to a point. And they're wanting to do their own thing. They're not necessarily potentially wanting to do the things that maybe I want to do or follow along with me. And sometimes there's that thought in your mind, especially after you've had, a 12-hour day at work, or it's been stressful, where it's like, I don't really want to do this, or I have to do this. And then when I've repositioned that in my mind of, I don't have to do this, I get to do this. Like, this is a privilege for me to be able to do this with them. It's a privilege for me to be able to not only do this with them, but the fact that they are asking me to do this with them, like, I get to do that. And positioning it in my mind of, holy shit, like, I actually have the opportunity to do this and do this with them, and they want me to do this with them is such a great thing. And then having that filter from that micro scale all the way through to, other things like just daily chores and things that maybe I don't want to do within the business, things that maybe I don't want to do from like a physical point of view. I'm not sure whether I've talked about it on this, on this podcast, but one thing with, say, training for me, one of the reasons why I kind of went and found jiu-jitsu at some point was because training within the gym felt like a chore and it felt like work, because we've owned a gym for the last 10 plus years, and it's just become part of my job to have to train. It's a practice what you preach thing. You need to make sure you're doing what you're telling other people to do. Otherwise, flat out, I'm a hypocrite. Now, that in itself can take what the perceived enjoyment out of what used to be an enjoyable activity for me. So all of a sudden, by switching my mindset around, I have to do this too. I get to do it. I have the privilege of doing it. And I have the privilege of being in a position where I am able to do this and I am able to make this a priority. It's really allowed me to get the enjoyment back into a lot of little things. And as a result, in what has been a very, very trying time and a very, very trying month for ourselves. And I know it's not just me. I know there are people all over the world that over the last 18 months, almost 2 years, and even longer, like for a lot of people, like all this pandemic has really just highlighted issues that we've had. It's really put a bigger mirror up in front of us and forced us to focus on those things. And that can be a hard pill to swallow when you don't necessarily want to face it. But when you are locked down and you really have no escape, you have to look at it, and that can cause a lot of mental anguish. And, if you're really in the deep and really in the thick of it, I'm sure if you've listened to this podcast before, I don't need to reiterate it, but get some help if you need it. But one thing and one mindset shift that has really helped me is that thought of, I don't have to, I get to. And by looking at things, even just minute things that maybe in the past would have, really pissed me off to do, and I would have done them begrudgingly, and I really would have been like, oh shit, I've got to go and do this again. It's really helped me be happier. It really, really has. Like, understanding that the world we live in, as unsure as it is, and as shitty as it can be at times, and how many things that are happening at the moment for a lot of us that are directly impacting us, but yet they're outside of our control. And if you get wrapped up in those things that are outside of your control, it's just going to beat you down to a point where you're not going to be able to get out of it, because you can't change what you can't control. You can change yourself, and you can change that close circle and what is inside that circle, your circle of influence and your circle of control. But sometimes there's just things that are happening that you can't control. And when it comes to daily tasks, we can get bogged down when we're in this situation, and this very dark outward world situation like we're in now, where we can get so caught up in getting ourselves down about just doing such trivial things. And I've just found over the last few months, by looking at those things from the point of view of, I don't have to, I get to do this. This is a privilege for me to be able to do this. And especially with, this is a podcast which is meant to be for dads. And I know that there's other people other than dads that listen to this. And I know that there's other parents that listen to this. And I know that as a parent, we can get so caught up in the day-to-day, the lack of sleep, the homeschooling that has to happen with some people right now, the running around after kids and all these things, that when they ask to do something that's maybe out of routine, you can kind of go, do I really have to do this? And it's like, well, you don't have to, you get to. It's a privilege to be able to do it, to be able to have a kid that wants to explore these things, and more importantly, wants to be able to explore these things with you. And then doing things, being able to get up, go to work, go exercise. These are all things that, while they may seem like tasks and chores, it's a privilege to be able to do. And that's something that, for me, over the last couple of months, and especially through what for me personally and what for us has been a time of massive change. We've had a lot of opportunities presented to us. We've had a lot of things happen, and external things that have not been able to be changed from my actions. I can influence my actions, but I can't influence external circumstances. And really positioning like my day-to-day tasks around in my head, even those medial ones that I don't want to do, that I don't have to do it, I get to do it. And it's a privilege for me to be able to do it, has really helped me find the joy in what I may not have been able to find joy in the past. So if you're going through it, it's a pretty shitty time for a lot of people at the moment. I emphasize, I can't say I understand because everybody's going through a different thing. I understand my particular set of circumstances, and that's basically the people that are close to me, the people that I've talked to. And no one's ever really truly going to understand those circumstances. But we do live in a very privileged country. We do live in a very privileged time in comparison to other people in the world. Whether that's the right or wrong way to look at it, comparing yourself to other people, I don't know. But I know for me, changing that outlook and changing that perspective of I don't have to do this, but I get to do this. This is a privilege for me to be able to do this, has really helped me, and has really helped me not only be happier, but attack the day a lot better because I'm more energized, more energetic, and more ready to actually do the tasks and do the things that need to be done to move my life forward, to move my family's life forward, and to really just enjoy the time that I have with my kids and the other people that are close to me. A little bit of a shorter one this week. I hope that mindset shift for some of you helps. If it does, let me know. If there's something that you'd like me to cover off, great. As always, like, share, subscribe to all the podcast platforms, YouTube, all that other business. Share it around with any friends that you might think get some value of it. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you all. Have a great day.